It's a big world for 4 small meerkats. They're native to the Kalahari Desert region of Africa, but they'll now call the Hunter Valley Zoo home.
We have 2 males and 2 females. They flew in from Tasmania on Saturday. They've been in our quarantine area for the last few days, and today's the first day that they've actually got to explore their new homes.
There's more than meets the eye to this $30,000 enclosure. Mesh beneath the sand stops these keen diggers from burrowing out.
So we have to make sure all of our exhibits are completely meerkat proof. So lots of smooth sides, lots of mesh before they get used to it. There you go, you found the food.
The zoo hopes the meerkats will be a draw card this school holidays and beyond.
It's one of those species that everybody looks for when they come to the zoo. They're always on the go, they're standing up, they look at everybody, they're quite interactive as well. There you go, you even smile for the camera.
There are also plans to add more African animals in the next 12 months.
In the future, we'd love to include species like serval cats, fennec foxes, and eventually some of the big stuff. Give me a little while and we may even have lions.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
It was a bit scary there for a couple of weeks. Everyone was pretty much talking to him in past tense and everything like that. It was getting a little bit sad, but just talking to him, hearing his voice and hearing that he's pretty happy is it's pretty soothing on everybody, and I think it's relaxed the whole club a whole lot.
They scored an impressive win over the Raiders on Saturday, but for the Knights, the memory of the loss to North Queensland still lingers.
Well, this time last week, it was probably the worst time I've had at the Knights, I reckon, after that loss against the Cowboys. And, it just shows how, a week in football can be, how long it can be, how good it can be, how bad it can be.
He may have been celebrating a birthday.
I feel the same, but obviously 34 years old. Didn't think I'd be still playing at this age, so it feels good.
But Willie Mason was the one singing praises. On the prospect of Kurt Gidley and Jared Mullen being selected for New South Wales, he says Gidley could handle the hooking role and Mullen should play 5/8.
I think it's time for him to get another crack because, regardless if he's missed 4 or 5 weeks this year, he's got 6 weeks to prove himself, and I don't think anyone's stamped themselves on the number 6 since Freddie Fittler.
As for the chances of representing the Blues himself,
I wouldn't brush it or anything like that, put it that way. I love playing for New South Wales, but, when they do go in another direction, you don't go, everyone hates me or anything like that. They're just, obviously, there's new players coming through.
Mullen was on light duties today while Gidley missed the field session after suffering a head knock against the Raiders. Both are expected to face the Broncos. Backup hooker Adam Clydesdale is ready to fill the role, still celebrating his first NRL try.
Yeah, no, it was good. I was very excited. I'd say my mum was probably more excited, but it was good to get across the line.
Clydesdale says he owes a lot to Danny Badiris.
Each and every week I get more confidence, and every time I talk to Danny Badiris, he always just says back myself and believe in myself. So, he's been a big help.
The Knights will train again on Thursday and are inviting holidaying school kids to come and meet the players. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's probably not that relevant over 2,400 metres, barrier 2. It appeared the fence was not the place to be last Saturday, but at the end of 2,400 metres you want to save as much ground as possible. So, yeah, I'm not too concerned. Shani Ray, she's been ultra consistent this preparation without winning, and she goes in the Group 1 Queen of the Turf Stakes, takes on a good bunch of mares, but she's in good form without winning.
It's the scenario every miner's family lives in fear of. Just after 9 o'clock last night, 7 people were working 500 metres underground at the Ostar coal mine at Paxton near Cessnock when a wall collapsed, trapping 2 men. 35-year-old Philip Grant of Metford and 49-year-old Jamie Mitchell of Aberdare. In an act of bravery, their workmates attempted to free them before having to flee for their own safety.
At 12:15, the ambulance, mines rescue and other persons were able to access where the men were, and they were pronounced deceased at that time.
As daylight broke, colleagues of the men arrived at the site to the devastating news. The tragedy has rocked the entire community of Paxton, with locals leaving flowers today to pay their respects to those who went to work and never came home.
Every morning when the wives kiss their husbands goodbye, they think they're coming home. In the background, they'd be thinking, please come home today, but they're not coming home. So we're a small community, we are, and we're all out there to help each other. And, I just thought of the family straight away.
Mine owner Jan Cole says the cause of the incident isn't yet known.
The mine has a strong safety record under Jan Cole's ownership. At this time, we do not have any details of what caused the incident. Our focus at this time is on working with emergency services to manage the recovery of the 2 workers.
At Aberdare, the home of Jamie Mitchell, the flags were at half-mast at the United Mine Workers Federation of Australia.
Both those families have got children. One of them have got 5 children. Absolute tragedy. They're going to do it tough for a long period of time.
It's the worst mining accident the region has seen since 1996, when 4 miners died at the Gretley Colliery west of Newcastle.
We asked the question. It is 2014 and look, the industry's got to stop killing coal miners.
Police say the operation to remove the men's bodies from the mine could take days.
It could take some time. It will depend on the different options and as we're looking through the risk assessments.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
A devastated Ben Rogers emerged from Newcastle local court. Convicted of 2 counts of assault, the former Knight's future as a club official is now uncertain.
Naturally disappointed at today's result. I'm very apologetic to Down Syndrome New South Wales number 1 for the bad press that they've received, my family and the club as well.
Rogers, seen here in the white shirt, was captured on CCTV fighting with 2 men outside West's Leagues Club in New Lambton on the 1st of September last year. He told the court he punched the men in self-defence, saying a group had insulted and threatened him and his partner following a charity event for Down Syndrome New South Wales. Today, Magistrate Robert Stone rejected that defence, saying it was not the actions of a man in fear. He takes off his jacket in anticipation that he was going to have a fight. He was not avoiding a confrontation. In sentencing, the magistrate accepted that Rogers had been provoked by what he called rude, obnoxious and vulgar behaviour. He said the former player went too far and should have known better. He then issued a $1,000 fine and put Rogers on a 12-month good behaviour bond. One of the victims' wives issued a statement saying, "We are pleased with the verdict. The victims are good people and didn't deserve this." Madeline McKell, NBN News.
October 1, 2011, and NBN News was covering the Old Bar Beach Festival. To festival goers' horror, a light plane had become wrapped around a Ferris wheel.
It was actually very surreal. I didn't think it was really happening right in front of my eyes.
Somehow, the pilot, Paul Cox, his passenger and the 4 people on the wheel were not injured.
I mean, I could see the trees, I was clear of the trees and everything. Didn't see the Ferris wheel, didn't see it at all.
Seconds earlier, the pilot had aborted a landing at the Old Bar airfield and accelerated, just clearing a fence at the end of the runway. He then steered the aircraft left, but couldn't clear the Ferris wheel. Just how all this happened is the subject of this Australian Transport Safety Bureau report leaked to NBN News, and it doesn't make for pretty reading for the pilot, his trainers and the festival committee. On the pilot, the report found he didn't have the necessary skills to hold a private certificate, and that the training provided to him by Recreational Aviation Australia was insufficient for for him to develop the skills to hold a pilot's licence. On the positioning of the Ferris wheel near the end of the runway, the report found it was set up within the takeoff and approach clearance area. The festival organisers' risk management was also found to be poor. The committee had used a 2008 risk assessment, changing only the dates for the following 3 years, which failed to assess the risk involved with aircraft. The aircraft and its certification resulted in a risk to the general public. And finally, documentation required by Greater Taree City Council to give approval to the amusement rides was incomplete. In the days after the crash, the pilot's licence was suspended and he was required to undergo further training. The Old Bar Festival Committee has reduced the level of aviation activity and indicated it'll improve its risk management. The report will be officially released tomorrow. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Desperate times for Hunter manufacturing have resulted in some desperate measures. An AMWU online campaign and stop work rally next month are the start of the union's attempts to set an agenda for the 2015 state election.
Well, we want to engage with the whole community, so people in the community can expect to see new material coming out through Facebook. We want to engage with hundreds and thousands of community members who we know are just as concerned about the future of the manufacturing industry as we are.
The union says the sector can't afford to wait any longer for more contracts.
It's total indifference from Canberra and Macquarie Street to the problems that blue-collar workers in the Hunter Valley face. So what we've determined to do is to bring the union together to act in a way that's going to bring attention to the jobs crisis in the Hunter Valley.
With more than 1,000 jobs at 4Jacks on the line this year, the campaign is designed to offer a little optimism to workers.
The boys are worried, especially people with families. A lot of apprentices and things too are really worried about what their future holds, I guess. And you know, it's mostly some older blokes too. You know, are pretty worried about what's going to be happening with them in the future.
And there was a message for the next state premier.
Well, we'd call on the new Premier of New South Wales, whoever that might be, to reconsider the government's approach to unions and to the business community and to regional communities.
Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
They're meant to make public transport easier to use. And although the take-up of Opal cards in Sydney is promising, it appears commuters in the Hunter aren't on board just yet.
I saw the signs and stuff and I'm like, oh yeah. I didn't know much about it.
I haven't heard much about it. I've only just seen the little signs around the station.
While our trains became part of the network last Friday, our buses won't be until the end of the year. But figures show there are perhaps greater worries for public transport users than a shift to cash-free ticketing.
If you ask commuters, they'll tell you they're late every day.
TransLink figures show month after month trains aren't running on time. The Newcastle Central Coast line has fallen below the 92% target 4 out of the past 5 months, even with a new timetable introduced last October.
It showed that 15 out of 19 weeks the trains are late home.
But some say it's nothing new.
It's been fairly reasonably on time and fairly efficient.
It can be late from time to time, but I guess you just get used to that.
In the past 3 days, there have been consecutive breakdowns during peak times on the Newcastle Central Coast line or supporting Hunter line.
We know there are significant issues about the breakdown of freight trains, but the government's been completely silent on what it's doing about managing that challenge between freight trains and passenger trains.
We thought it'd be a great chance for them to get together and meet each other and just be able to share experiences of what it's like, because life is a little bit different for kids where there's a disability in the family.
We'll go into if we couldn't sort of come to a resolution here, but the Knights were very good in coming to a resolution, I suppose, and coming to the party.
A step up to the top Hunters outfit from the State League is keeping this busy guard on her toes.
It's really exciting to be training all the time and having the same sort of competition week in, week out.
Freya Roebuck's decision to leave Bathurst to study bioscience in Newcastle has been the Hunters' gain, and her influence was there for everyone to see in her side's 22-point win over Maitland last weekend.
We started off pretty slowly. We were a bit surprised by the strength and physicality of Maitland. We pulled it together in the second half with a few fast breaks and steals, and that really got us rolling, and it was really good.
She's the daughter of former Wallaby fullback Marty Roebuck, who isn't too far away when the team's on the road.
He's living in Sydney at the moment, so he's been fitting in the games with his studies. So I got to see him a few weekends ago. He came down to the Sydney game, and there'll be some games that he'll come up for. It's always just encouraging to do the best.
Freya's fitted in to coach Cindy Mascott's game plan of hitting on the break to counteract the side's lack of height around the key.
When I had a look at what sort of team we had, not having a lot of height, I figured that we're going to have to be fit and very good shooters, which they are. They need to realise their potential that, yes, they can make it. They can shoot the ball and it will go in.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Touching tributes for 35-year-old Philip Grant and 49-year-old Jamie Mitchell.
Every coal miner in New South Wales would be feeling this today, every coal miner.
The miners tragically lost their lives on Tuesday night while on shift at the All-Star coal mine. The pair had been working 500 metres underground with the continuous miner when a 15-metre-long section of wall exploded, burying them under an estimated 80 tonnes of coal. Mr Mitchell's body was freed at around 8 o'clock this morning after mines rescue operators worked through the night.
He was seen by family and the other miners that were working the night when the accident occurred. He was then removed from the scene and taken to Newcastle John Hunter Hospital.
While specialist rescue equipment was brought in to recover Mr Grant's, his body was removed about an hour ago. The mine remained closed today. A steady stream of family, friends and co-workers visited the site. While investigations into just what caused the mine collapse are still ongoing, tonight at least the families of Jamie Mitchell and Philip Grant will be able to rest a little easier, knowing that their loved ones' bodies have been retrieved.
It's been a difficult process. Obviously safety is paramount and we need to ensure that it's safe for everyone down there.
Professor Gary Wilgoose says the men were working on the most dangerous part of the project.
It's the riskiest part of the development of a longwall miner because you're going into rock that you haven't actually drilled into before. You won't know the exact details of what's known as the stress field because it's the stress field that's created this incident.
Newcastle Knights will wear black armbands in honour of the miners in tomorrow night's match against the Brisbane Broncos. Madeline McKell, NBN News.
Police markers map out a trail of blood in front of the Estelle Street home. Just some of the evidence as police investigate how a woman died inside the property last night.
Around the 11:30 PM mark, police were called here to Estelle Street in Maryville. We'd been informed that a female had died.
A crime scene was established. This morning, detectives questioned neighbours as forensics continued their investigations. A number of items were seized from the property, including an air conditioning unit. Police also took a man who was living with the 34-year-old woman in for questioning, but he's since been released.
It's very early in the investigation and we're not releasing information in relation to the particular parties involved. Obviously identification has to occur, we have to confirm who we're dealing with.
Nearby residents have described the man and woman that lived in the flat as a couple of Aussie battlers trying to give things a go. But last night, neighbours say they awoke to the sound of someone in pain and police sirens.
What's happened in Wickham as well, so it's been a bit different, a bit scary, that's all I can say.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
People are voting with their feet, as it were, and we're trying to respond to that to give them more opportunity and a different way of being able to recreate on the foreshore.
They're the father and son duo that took last year's Derby by storm. And once again, the Foot family's ready to roll.
Yep, I definitely do want that trophy. If they're ready, I'm ready, so let's see.
Not even a heavy crash can keep this driver away.
Hurt my leg, but
yeah,
still able to ride another day.
For Dad Nigel, last year's Open winner, the enjoyment is just as high.
I just enjoy running down the hill. Brings back memories of when I was a little kid, getting back in our road and just putting him on the road and just running down the hill and having a fun time.
While his son is eyeing off back-to-back titles, Nigel is far more relaxed.
I'm not there to win or anything. I'm there to have a fun time and enjoy myself.
Behind every good driver is a hard-working mechanic. Nigel's brother Philip spends his spare time designing and building the billy carts, but he's quick to deflect praise.
It's always the driver. You just feel good that you've built it and they've driven it and they've won the race.
And when it comes to the question of who's the better driver, it's Dad who gets the last laugh.
Me. Definitely me.
My son would say he would be the better driver, but I haven't crashed yet, so it'd have to be me.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It was a night's training with a difference. An open day for fans and the chance to witness the club's final preparations before their round 7 matchup with the Broncos. They're hoping to continue where they left off last week.
We had to turn around in Canberra, we did, and we've just got to back it up tomorrow night now. That's all it comes back to.
And they're aiming to keep pace with Brisbane, who traditionally get out of the blocks early.
We've done a bit of video on them this morning, and everyone knows their role tomorrow night, and hopefully can go out and execute what we've been practicing. Oh, they start well. They start fast, so we just have to match them in that department and play the whole 80 minutes.
Knights prop Cade Snowden will miss the match with post-concussion symptoms, while rookie Jake Mamo is set to replace Uwate on the wing. Wayne Bennett this week mentioned that Beau Scott was the form player of the competition so far, and the second rower is happy to have started the campaign injury-free, as well as finding the line.
I'm feeling pretty good myself, body-wise, and trying to play some consistent football. So, yeah, whatever I can do in my role for the team, I'm trying to achieve. I guess it's just good to get across the line a couple of times.
The match kicks off at Hunter Stadium tomorrow at 7:40. Michael Kane, NBN News. After having enough chances to put away the defending premiers on their own patch, it's still a sore point for the new Bears coach.
You've got to take those opportunities because you can't get 3 points unless you score goals.
Starting their season in fine style against Lakes, Western last Sunday showed enough promise to send a signal out to the rest of the competition they could be genuine title contenders. But their next test will be tomorrow against Lambton Jaffers away from home.
Getting points early is what you've got to do, because you don't want to be in the lower places early in the competition, because it puts more pressure on your group and also on the coach.
Relishing the challenge of taking charge of a club stacked with tradition, Piggott's using a blend of youth and experience to get the job done in 2014.
This is probably one of the highlights for me, is going to a club that's steeped in history and have welcomed me so well. You know, the senior players have a big effect on our young players, and if we can keep that going, I think the future is bright for Western Bears.
In other matches this Easter long weekend, Edgeworth host Charlestown City on Friday night. On Saturday, Magic take on the Jets Youth, and there'll be 2 games on Monday with Adamstown playing the Gunners while Hamilton are up against Lakes. Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's much easier working with kids than working with angry coaches and, teammates and stuff like that.
It wasn't a good Friday for everyone. With Hunter roads bursting with holidaymakers, extra police are out in force.
The usual speeding offences, we're picking up people drink driving. There's already been a couple of drink drivers caught this morning, and that was later in the day. But generally, we're getting people who are overtaking on the near side of stop traffic.
There was a little relief for motorists this year, with the Hunter Expressway easing traffic along the New England Highway.
Well, I think it's made a bit of a difference. Generally, we see quite large queues on the end of the M1 and coming over the Hexham Bridge, but I think now it's the queues are only about 4 k's long, which is not too bad.
The message that fatigue is fatal also seems to be getting through.
Was it worthwhile? Needed a break?
Definitely, particularly with 2 little ones. I've got twins, so this rest stop was much needed, and it's great. It's a great facility.
Fatigue plays a very big part, particularly for people on long journeys. So rest stops such as the new one here on the Hunter Expressway certainly give people that opportunity to pull over.
While in Beresfield, Lions Club volunteers were under the pump, serving more than 1,000 people within the early hours of this morning.
Very busy. We've gone through quite a few cups.
It's quite a long way, but it hasn't been too bad, haven't been feeling too sick.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Easter is here, and for many, it's a time to reflect on the holiday's traditional message. The service at Christchurch Cathedral recreating the biblical journey, while St Nicholas's Children's Choir provided the perfect soundtrack. Down at the Fisherman's Co-op, and things were moving a little differently.
Oh mate, it's been hectic. From dawn till dusk, hectic.
While today was busy, yesterday the fish really flew out the door. Business already exceeding previous years.
I'd come in at 4 and there were people there then.
There were no surprises as to what's on the menu.
All day we just sold prawn after prawn, snapper, John Dory's, you name it.
And the food was put to good use. King Edward Park was the ideal location to enjoy the perfect weather, packed with families catching up over lunch. And for many of them, the Easter holiday has a much simpler meaning.
This time of year for us, it's just about getting together with all of our family, because we don't really get to see them that much.
No matter the location, there was one phrase that rang out. Three stagnant Newcastle sites will soon be a hive of activity. Negotiations are in the final stages on all 3 of these blocks. The empty site next to the Hunter Water offices, just down the road next to the current NIB headquarters, and on Hunter Street in Newcastle West, the site of the former Empire Hotel.
There's a wave of things happening in Newcastle, and we're grateful that Honeysuckle and the Hunter Development Corporation will be able to play a part.
The Australian Taxation Office will set up next to Hunter Water after plans for the Greater Building Society to use the land were scrapped a number of years ago. Nearby, a development with commercial space will be opened, but at this stage it isn't clear on who will move in. Meanwhile, the Hunter Street West site will be used to create affordable housing.
We get the sense that there's a groundswell of people anticipating change and wanting to be involved in it.
After years of inactivity, Honeysuckle is set for a development boom. The Hunter Development Corporation says the result is due to a number of factors.
In response to some of the announcements that have been made by government over the last 12 to 18 months in relation to the renewal of Newcastle, the truncation of the rail line and putting in of a new transport system.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
It's a small cap making a huge difference to the lives of those diagnosed with cancer. Chemotherapy treatment causes hair loss, and for those struggling with a life-threatening illness, a drastic change in appearance can be distressing.
That's a big part of the battle because you don't look the same, so you don't feel the same.
Newcastle Private is now able to offer cancer patients the option of combating the side effect, thanks to cold cap technology.
Really, this is another tool to help our oncology patients, because cancer is a terrible disease that we see every day. And, if this helps people not lose their hair during cancer, then that's great for us.
Widely used in Europe, the device uses a refrigerated cooling system to pump a liquid coolant through the cap, the headgear dropping to an icy 5 degrees.
It cools the scalp and allows the hair follicle to survive and not be as damaged from the treatment, and thus the hair will be able to survive the treatment and grow.
To access the treatment, patients must be referred by their oncologist.
It'll make a major breakthrough for people. They'll actually feel more comfortable about going to work, going to functions and not missing out on important things because they fear how they'll look and someone might approach them.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
She captured our hearts when Beyoncé plucked her from the crowd and serenaded her on stage in 2009.
I couldn't say a word because I was just breathless.
And again when she met her idol for the second time last year. Now the terrible news, the cancer she's had for over a decade has come back, more aggressive than ever.
It's just sad that any kid has to go through it.
The family isn't sure how long Chelsea has.
But we were confronted with news a few weeks ago that it could be 2 weeks, it could be, 4 weeks. The way the tumour's going, it's growing pretty quick.
However, this teen wants to enjoy every minute doing what she loves.
Shop.
And she's met more idols along the way, hanging out with Newcastle Knights player Robbie Rocco following the John Hunter Children's Hospital Christmas party last year.
I said, I'll do Gangnam Style with you. So we got up there and did Gangnam Style. It wasn't very good.
The family was looking into palliative care options in Sydney, but Chelsea decided she wants to stay at home.
Chelsea's not into all that. She doesn't want to have that confronted on a day-to-day basis. She's more of a happy-go-lucky person.
This superstar has got clear ideas about how she wants to be remembered.
Strong woman. Huh?
Her family is hoping to make her final days as comfortable and enjoyable as possible and would welcome any donations for Beyoncé's little angel, Chelsea. Georgina Smythe, NBN News.
With 1 point separating both clubs in early season standings, a win for either would be an Easter treat, and it was Western who spurned an early chance. But it wasn't long before they made amends, Jason Calburn heading the ball home in a crowded box. A bear on debut, 17-year-old Tommy Sparray was causing havoc down the Jaffers left as well as providing, while the home side was relying on Peter McPherson's link play with John Majerowski. And that's just what the Bears' mentor was looking at shutting down.
Just concentrating and stopping Madge coming off 15, 20 yards, getting the ball and then linking up with the front two.
While his counterpart looked to address his side's defensive structure.
We've made some good chances this half and we haven't scored, but it's only our defensive areas that are causing us problems at the moment.
But it seemed to fall on deaf ears as the Bears should have doubled their lead after the break, a point-blank save coupled with a horrible miss keeping the Jaffers in the contest. Sabat and Cowburn were running amok and it seemed a matter of time before the floodgates opened. But against the run of play, the man controlling the middle of the park for Lambton stepped up to the plate, Job Wheelhouse levelling up. The jubilation short-lived as Jai McKellar earned his side a spot kick. Jamie Sabat making no mistake. The Jaffers were desperate to level up, but not as desperate as the Bears' defence. While Tim Pratt held firm between the sticks. But 2-1 it stayed, keeping the Bears' undefeated start to the season intact. Michael Kane, NBN News. From the first hit-up, the Seagulls knew they'd be in for a rugged time. Prop Robert Mason got more than he bargained for as his night came to a premature end. But it was the home side which posted first points. A Herniti to a grubber found a slice of luck. It didn't take long for the Goannas to respond. Quick hands to Cal Orchard, who found the corner. Steve Kidd's men were taking advantage down the left-hand side as Cessnock hit the front. With half-time fast approaching, stopping Corey Barber close to the line was too much for the Lakes defence. Down by 10, muscle up was the call in the sheds at the break, and the Seagulls responded. But it wasn't enough to stem the flow of points, with clever work from Chris Adams keeping up his side's momentum. Another try to the Goannas stretched the lead to 20, but the Seagulls weren't done as the Lakes fullback grabbed his second for the night. But the visitors hit back with their fifth try, going on to win the match 32-12. Michael Kane, NBN News. Two councils in a turf tug-of-war despite most YE locals happy to stay on the lakeside.
Much prefer to stay in Lake Macquarie.
We don't need to change.
It's a definite no-no from me.
It all started after a state-funded local government review recommended shifting the YE Morisset area to Wyongshire. But Lake Macquarie City Council strongly rejects the recommendations and has statistics to back up the view.
85% of Morisset residents are against being moved to Wyong Council area. 69% of YE residents are against being moved to Wyong Council area.
A community meeting late last month to discuss the matter was slammed by Wyong Mayor Doug Eaton because he wasn't invited.
They don't want us there, they won't have us there.
It was a consultation meeting with Lake Macquarie residents about their views.
Some believe Wyong Council's planned regional airport at Bushells Ridge near YE is a hidden agenda and the real reason for its interest.
They recently prepared and submitted a draft amendment to an LEP to place an airport on land of Lake Macquarie City Council local government area, and yet they didn't discuss that with the council before they prepared that.
That's something the Wyong Mayor rejects, stating it's all about YE's long-running sewerage problems, claiming connection to the Charmhaven treatment plant is the quickest and easiest solution for locals.
And that's a critical fact that needs to be actually put on the table before people go off having public meetings and trying to sandbag their position.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Traffic was forced to wait today as Gresford's main street looked more like Mount Panorama than that of a small Hunter Valley town. It seems every man and his dog turned out to watch the action, and there was even a few farm animals. A few of this year's designs had never been seen before. Some billy carts flew down the track, others almost took off. The country road made for a rough ride down the course. Today's event was the culmination of months of work for many of these drivers, some billy carts looking more like the usual occupants of the road. The annual Easter Derby brought drivers from as far as the nation's capital, while others' hometown was a little mysterious. There was plenty of action off the track too, the gumboot throwing contest a hit, and the Fire Brigade sausage sizzle had plenty of business. Despite the scale of the event, the locals always knew it would run smoothly.
Gresford always comes up with the people on the day, and that's what we get. We get probably 20 volunteers on the day, and Gresford really gets behind any event that we have.
And while there could only be one winner today, at least all of the drivers could get a lift back to the top of the hill. Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
Vintage vessels in their element, a foreshore full of nautical boating history.
Oh, you're looking at different types of boats here. We've got some classic putt boats around there. We've also got some 50s boats that were built in the US.
Plenty having a hoot and it was a case of whatever floated your boat. But the event's main attraction had all sorts of characters in awe.
Never seen anything like this. This is amazing.
The man responsible for building Notorious is Captain Graham Wiley.
15th century Portuguese or Spanish caravel, which are the vessels of exploration that Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama and all of those types used to discover a route to the east.
It's the result of years of hard work, and with no modern equipment involved, it's certainly a labour of love.
It took about 9 years to put the pieces of wood together, but it actually started a bit before that. There was 2 years research.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
We just want to sort of tell the stories and keep our history sort of in the eye of the general public, you know.
Making his first appearance in the top grade, Jake Mamo could be forgiven for a shaky start. If that settled the nerves, his first genuine run rattled them. Undaunted, the 19-year-old threw himself into his work, taking down some big names in the process. The Knights did cross the line on several occasions, but Brisbane's defence was at its absolute best. Another player on the rise gave the Knights faithful something to cheer about. But the night only got tougher from there for the home side. Willie Mason was placed on report early in the second half as the Broncos ran in 6 tries to 1. The game was only a few minutes old when Broadmeadow's Josh Piddington failed to clear Mitch Oxborough's shot and Brandon Lundy made him pay. Peter Haynes was denied a chance when the referee failed to play advantage after a foul on Reece Tippett. At the other end, Benjamin Hay tried the audacious. Jets youth captain Nick Cowburn went even closer. Reece Pappas off target with the follow-up. Lundy continued to cause problems for Broadmeadow's defence as Chris Bowling came to the rescue. Despite several Easter presents from the Jets, the defending champions were lacking their usual magic. Piddington went agonisingly close to atoning for his earlier mistake. Haynes also had a great chance just before half-time, but 1-0 was how it stayed. The second half featured more of the same. Oxborough forced Bowling into another great save. Broadmeadow also produced its share of chances, but simply couldn't find the net. Jets keeper John Solari was the busiest player on the field as the visitors took all 3 points.
With these new boats, putting them on the water takes a little bit to figure out how they like to be sailed, and we're still going through that process.
It's the only time of year chocolate for breakfast is encouraged, and at many homes across the Hunter this morning, little ones were up early searching for their special breakfast, which the Easter Bunny had delivered overnight. But for others, it was a more traditional start to the morning. Hundreds flocked to the Sacred Heart Cathedral to celebrate the religious meaning of the Easter holiday.
So what we're on about today is the resurrected Christ. The resurrected Christ who is alive in the community.
While some were wide awake, the excitement the Easter Bunny provided earlier on proved too much. A large reception was also held at the Christchurch Cathedral. But as far as Easter egg hunts go, it doesn't get much better than this. The Hunter Valley Gardens provided the perfect backdrop. More than 2,000 children joined in on the fun, trading the plastic eggs spread through the garden for the real thing at the end. Even the Easter Bunny himself made an appearance.
It's been really beautiful out here at the gardens, and it's great for everyone. The kids enjoy it, but it's also a nice walk around in the beautiful surroundings.
But if you prefer quality over quantity, the Hunter Valley Chocolate Company was the place to be. This weekend alone, the business sold more than $20,000 worth of the sweet stuff.
We specialise in the Belgian chocolate, so we get all the Belgian eggs and bunnies and all that in for the Easter period.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
With plenty of local support, Ryan Pike was one of the favourites for the junior heavy title. Despite early carnage at the back of the field, the Hunter driver settled into the top three. Midway through the race, the 14-year-old edged into second and was soon leading the pack, but it wasn't meant to be. Starting from 7th, Wollongong's Josh Iafolla pushed Pike all the way to take the checkered flag. Second spot still ensured the local was part of the non-alcoholic champagne celebration.
Oh, it was a great race. John deserved it. He was very, very quick. Yeah, it was a good race.
But on this day, every competitor took a back seat to David Serra. Driving his own brand of karts, the Victorian was unstoppable in the clubman heavy division, before dominating his rivals to claim the X30 light crown. 2 Australian titles in one day and a record 17 overall.
My dad raced before me, so to win one Australian title was amazing. To win 17 now is, I can't describe it.
He'll head to the world titles in Las Vegas later this year, looking to improve on his second place finish in 2013.